Hi guys, my name is Bobby. Welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing the Dilemma of a Book Nerd tag. Is that what it's called? The Dilemmas of a Book Nerd tag. This tag was originally created by Lindsay over at Lindsay's Little Library. I will link her original video down below. I've seen a couple people do this. Vicky did it, and of course Lindsay, and I don't know if Sarah or April have done it yet, because I know they're buddies with Lindsay, I'm pretty sure. But this looked like a fun tag. Like, I watched Vicky do it, and I like the questions because they're more questions related on your reading habits more than just like assigning a book to a prompt, which I enjoyed. I originally didn't think I was going to be able to film a video for this week because this week is literally jam-packed. My daughter has 3 softball games and my work schedule is absolutely nuts. It's a crazy, crazy week. So, you know, I saw this. This is something I can film really quick and get edited and up and all of that jazz. So let's get into it. Okay, so Dilemma 1 is book storage. How do you store and organize your books? Well, does a Chinese fire drill count as a way you organize your books? Because that's kind of how it is. My book storage space is very limited. I have a couple boxes of books that are in our storage unit that's attached to our complex. Most of those are mass market paperbacks, stuff like that, books that I haven't read in a while or are ones I'm not going to read soon or not going to reread soon. And then I have this small bookshelf right here, which you can usually see a chunk of in the frame. This was all I used to have, my small ineffectual bookshelf, and so I had just crammed pretty much all of the ones that I wanted displayed on there, and then everything else was stacked in my closet. My wonderful husband decided to buy me a bookshelf. He built it himself, and it hasn't fallen apart yet, so thank God. But that one's like right here, so right to my left, your right, and I don't film in front of it because I haven't found a way to get it, because literally my filming setup is very hodgepodge. Like, I literally have an ottoman with books, and then my tiny little tripod with my tiny little camera sits on top of it, and with me sitting on my bed, I can get it to where it's level. I have tried, but when I twist it around, because I have a foam mattress, and, you know, right where it's at the edge of the bed, well, we lay here every night, so there's a little bit of a dip, so it looks sideways, so I haven't yet figured out how to do that, because the lighting will be great because the window's right in front of it, so I'd get direct light instead of kind of like the side lighting. But anyways, like, so that's right there, and that is full pretty damn near now. There is no organization to it, honestly. Top shelf is all unread. The second shelf, all of the books are read except for one, Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. All the rest are like some of my favorites. Like, I have the Illuminate Files, Nevernight in God's Grave, Prior to the Orange Tree, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Savior's Champion, Heart's Invisible Furies, the Book of the Ancestor trilogies there, Daisy Jones and the Six, The Poppy War, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, Grace and Fury, Wicked Deep, and Scythe. Like, it's all like of my very favorite books that I've read. Most of them are all recently, honestly, but they're all books that I really, really loved, all 5 stars. And then the shelf below that has most of the book of the months that I haven't read yet, which isn't very many. There's only 6, 7, and then there's 3 down there, so I guess there's 10. And then other books that I really, really want to read soon. So, like, a lot of ones that are, like, kind of high up on my list. The one down from there has kind of a hodgepodge. I can see right now there's 3 books on it that I've read, and the rest are all unread. And then on the very bottom shelf, I have my Tintin collection and all of the Book of the Month books that I own that I have read, that I decided to keep and not donate. And there's 3, 6, 9, 11. And there's 11 down there, books that I've read. So it's very hodgepodge. It's not like, oh, I have a whole TBR shelf. Because, I mean, this shelf now, I didn't even mention, this shelf over here now, one whole row is all my Richard Lehman books. The top shelf is all books that are unread, that are mostly paperback. And then the bottom shelf has a lot of, like, novelty books, like all my Buffy the Vampire Slayer Watcher's Guides. A couple other ones, like my Silence of the Lambs. What did they call that? Like, it's not a trilogy. Like, a quad something. But yeah, it's got all, like, stuff like that, like, they're not ones that are on my TBR or anything like that. So that was a very long-winded answer. But yeah, it's an organized chaos. Like, I know where most of the books are on the shelf, so they're easy for me to find. But I don't organize by color. I couldn't really anyways. I don't have enough books to do that with. The rainbow shelves look pretty, but they would drive me nuts. Like, I like keeping series together. Like, I have my Luminate Files trilogy, my Book of the Ancestor trilogy, like, trilogies, series, they stay together on shelves. They do not belong, you know, not mixed up anyways. So it's an organized chaos. Dilemma 2, tracking. How do you keep track of what you have read and what books you own? Goodreads. I mean, that's kind of like the booktuber's best friend. A lot of it's on Goodreads. I don't keep track of anything else. I don't bullet journal. I don't do anything like that. Honestly, I don't really see the point of bullet journaling unless you're really creative or you have a lot of stuff going on. Like, I'm not that creative of a person. I'm just not. It's just kind of one of those things. I'm not an artist. I mean, I guess I used to be a musician. Like, I'm just not that creative of a person. So for me, making pretty much a journal to color in and then, you know, spend all this time on just doesn't really appeal to me. So I don't have a bullet journal. Goodreads tracks what I read. I do the reading challenge every year, so that keeps track of what I've read for the year. And it's really easy to go back and reference when I'm looking for, like, making sure I've got all the books I've read in a certain month to do a wrap-up. When I'm looking at the end of the year for best and worst or whatever, best or most disappointing, it's easy to look through the ratings and be able to see, okay, where everything's at, because after, you know, a full year of reading, sometimes you forget ones. So I use that pretty much, like, and then everything that I have is right here on my Kindle, so it's really easy. I can literally just look to my left and there's everything, and most of them are unread, so there's that. But yeah, I don't really do anything fancy to track. I mean, I like the looks of a bullet journal, but to me it just seems like a time waster, which I don't mean that in a negative way. Like the ones that like Lala does and a lot of the other people are really pretty and I love what they look like, but I just do not have the time to put in the effort for that. I just don't. And since I'm not very creative, like, I don't have a lot of original booktube ideas. I get a lot of ideas from other booktubers or like the standard videos. So because of that, like, I just have under my notes thing in my iPhone, like, I just write down like stuff and videos I want to do. And so when it comes time to film, if it's not a wrap up or TBR time, then I will just grab an idea from that list. Dilemma 3, borrow. Do you lend your books out? Well, that all depends on who you are. I do lend my books out, but I'm very select with how I lend my books out. I have OCD. I'm very OCD about my books. So if you're a dog-ear person, like, I don't like my books dog-eared, please use a bookmark. I don't care if you use a receipt or whatever. It's just one of my pet peeves. So I will loan them out to people that I trust. A lot of times with, like, one of my best friends has all the Ugly and Wonderful Things right now. She just brought me back the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and so then I swapped them out. If I know somebody isn't that really good at taking care of books, but I know they're not going to damage it, I may take off the dust jacket and leave it here if it's a hardback, because I don't want the dust jacket ruined. But for the most part, I'm okay with letting people borrow books as long as I get them back. Like, and if you burn me once, you never borrow my books again. Dilemma 4, buying. How do you buy or acquire your books? Well, I buy a lot of my books secondhand, or I try to. I live in a very small town, so we don't have library sales. We don't have, like, there are no used bookstores in town. Like, the one that does sell used books, they're not any books of quality. They're all very, very old, like, what's her name? That one romance author, Danielle Steele. A lot of, like, hers, because this town has a lot of elderly in it, and no offense to, like, the elder generation, but they don't read books that I enjoy. So, like, it's very hard. Like, I'd have to travel. Like, the nearest, like, big used bookstore, like a Half Price Books, is 50 miles away over. It's about over an hour drive to get there. So, you know, I'm not going to drive all that way to buy used books. So I utilize thrift books a lot. I use thrift books to get all of my Richard Lehman books that I was replacing. I got, what was it, like 35 books for like 50 bucks. Like, they were all really cheap. So thrift books is a really good one if you want backlist titles. A lot of them are mass market paperback, but I don't mind those. Like, they don't bother me, especially if they're older books. Beggars can't be choosers. You're not going to find a decent condition hardback for a good price for a book that was published in 1986. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, if you want newer books for cheap, of course, Book Outlet is a great resource. I've gotten a lot of books from Book Outlet. You can get a lot of great books, and usually a month or so after they come out, they're there. And then, of course, everything else is Amazon. That's where I buy all my new books. Like, if there's a book I have to have, like right now, which happens on occasion, I'll buy it there. I've pre-ordered. I've started pre-ordering now, which I never really used to do because I didn't really know it was coming out. Now, I don't keep track like some booktubers do where they have a list of the entire year of books they're excited about. I'm not really in the know on that. So, you know, I knew Holy Sister was coming out. That was pre-ordered. I knew Aurora Rising was coming out. That's pre-ordered. Dark Dawn, which comes out in September, that's been pre-ordered since January. Stuff like that, where it's like continuation of a series or whatever, those are pre-ordered. But yeah, Amazon, Book Outlet, and Thrift Books are my main ones where I buy books because I can't get to a used bookstore in a timely fashion. Dilemma 5, comments. How do you respond to the how do you read so much comment or similar comments? I'm such a new booktuber. I mean, I've been here almost a year. August will be a year for me. So, you know, my subscriber count isn't that high, but it is growing. I am over 200 subscribers now. Thank you all for watching. So I haven't really gotten that question yet because honestly, like, I haven't been in a space where I've had the time to read as much. Like, I feel like that I read more before I started my channel than I do now. I'm averaging like 5 to 6 books a month right now, where some booktubers read like 10 to 20, which is insane. But you also have to remember a lot of those booktubers read audiobooks and a lot of graphic novels. While I enjoy graphic novels, I just haven't found any that I enjoy since I finished, like, I'm all done reading Saga until, you know, they're on a hiatus right now. But I Hate Fairyland is only 4 volumes. I've read all those. So I haven't really found any graphic novels that I really want to read. And honestly, my library doesn't have the best graphic novel selection. Again, small town, supply and demand. There isn't really much demand for graphic novels. They do have a lot of manga, it seems like, and a lot of, like, I think manga is all the anime stuff. They seem to have a good selection of that in their YA section of the library, but manga doesn't really appeal to me. I'm not a huge fan of anime. I'm not a fan of the art style, so it's not really something I'd read. So if you think about it, a lot of the booktubers audiobook and read a lot of graphic novels or manga. When they do, their book reading for the month goes high. Like Maddie over the Book Pusher, she'll read like 20 things in a month, but 14 of those were graphic novels. You can read 2 to 3 to 4 graphic novels in a day if you have a day off, because they're very quick reads. So you have to put that into perspective. Audiobooks also, if you're an audiobook listener, you can listen to those while you're doing everyday around the house stuff or driving or commuting, and you can get a lot read a lot faster if you read audiobooks. I personally do not care for audiobooks. I find it really hard to focus. I'm more of a visual person. So for me, listening to an audiobook, it takes me, first of all, I can't listen to it on anything but normal speed. I've tried like double speed, and a lot of these other booktubers read 2 times speed or 2.5 times speed. I cannot do that because it sounds like a fucking chipmunk is reading to you, and I cannot do that. When I first heard like 2 times speed, I'm like, oh, it's going to be the narrator's voice, and it's just going to be sped up a little bit. No, no, no. It's sped up, but it sounds like a chipmunk. It's all way up here, and they're talking like this, and it's really, really fast. Fuck that. Like, I'm not listening to a book where it's sped up to where, like, it's sped up. Like, where you see videos, like, there's some booktubers who do that, where they speed their voice up, and it makes it sound like a chipmunk. I can't listen to an audiobook that way. Just, no. So I have to listen to it on 1 time speed. And honestly, the 1 or 1.5 times speed where the voice still sounds normal, I can read it physically faster than the audiobook can read it to me. So they're just, and I just can't, I don't retain it. I have a hard time retaining it because I've got like the OCD, but I also need to be doing something. So it's almost a little bit of ADD. So like if I'm doing a color by number on my tablet or playing a game or whatever while I'm listening to keep my hands busy, my mind wanders. Like I can't focus on an audiobook. So I'm a physical reader. So that also is why my reading is only 5 to 6 books a month, because between with work and my kids and all that stuff, 5 to 6 books a month to me is excellent when you have a very full life schedule. So that's, and I kind of went off track, like, but so people have never really asked me why I read so much in a month, because I mean, I guess I do more than the average person, but I'm not reading like 10 to 20 things like some of these other booktubers do. So, but I mean, honestly, be one of those things, well, reading is my hobby, so I find time to read. Like I always read before bedtime. If like, you know, I'm feeling burnout on TV or anything else, like reading helps calm me down. With my crazy work schedule, sometimes reading is tough because it makes me more tired, where it puts me to sleep because my eyes were just tired. But I fit it in where I can. That's just, you do what you have to do. Dilemma 6, next book. How do you pick your next read? I'm a mood reader. but I am setting a TBR because I'm trying to force myself through some of these books that I bought and paid for. Like, they need to get read. If I don't read them, then they obviously aren't that important. They get donated, which that was evidenced last month. I donated 2 of the books that were on my TBR. So I have been using TBRs. It is helping me to get through books that I don't or would normally pick up just by looking at it. But I tend to be a mood reader, and my mood switches often. So I had read, what was it last month? I had ended up with a lot of YA and books that I just didn't want to pick up. One of them I ended up DNFing. There was just a lot of, it was just, I slumped really hard. So I ended up picking up a fantasy book, and I'm now breezing through it. So I'm like kind of getting back on a good flow. But a lot of times, like, books will just call to me. And this one has been calling to me for a long time. I'm currently reading Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. And I bought it specifically because Cody had hyped it so much. And I was like, okay, I gotta read it. And I'm fucking loving it. It's amazing. So when books like that call to me and I have to read them, like my TBR kind of goes by the wayside, I'll grab them. Like there's another book, The Huntress by Kate Quinn, that I bought that is like, I really want to fucking read. And like that one's just kind of sitting there like, read me. Like there's a couple of them that do that. But the TBR helps also with the mood reading to force me to read stuff that's been on my TBR for a long time and needs to get read. And they're probably books I'm going to enjoy. They're just not one that I'm chomping at the bit to read like right this second. So a little bit of both. I use a TBR and I also mood read. Dilemma 7, travel. How do you pick what books you bring on vacation with you? Whatever I'm currently reading. Unless it's like The Stand by Stephen King or something like that. I'm not lugging a big chunky book around. Like I mentioned, we are going to Disneyland in July and we are driving. We live in Washington State and we're driving to California. So that is a 20-hour fucking drive, and we are going to stop once on the way down. So I'll be getting a lot of reading done in the car. So for that, like, I do have books on my Kindle. That'll be a good way to knock off some of my Kindle books. And I'll probably bring a book or two. I usually bring at least 2 books when I'm traveling, whichever one I'm currently reading and one to pick up after, because I'm always afraid that if I end up with a lot of time for reading or whatever and I breeze through it, then what am I going to read next? So I like to have a second one on hand, but well, 9 times out of 10, I never even make it to the second book, let alone finish the first one. But also, like, my Kindle app on my phone or my tablet is a great way to use for traveling because you can carry 10,000 books if you wanted to, and with plenty to choose from, and it makes it easy. You know, it's just on a small device and you're not lugging around like half a library. Dilemma 8. Annotate. Do you write or highlight or mark up your books in any way? Fuck no. I do not understand why people fucking annotate. It gives me so much anxiety watching people annotate. Now, putting the little like sticky tabs that like point to something where each sticky tab, like each color represents something different, that I'm okay with because the sticky tabs can be taken off without damaging the book. To me, underlining, writing in the margins, like I can't. And to me, the thought of annotating would pull me so far out of the story that I'm reading. Like no. And most of the time when I'm reading books, like taking notes so you can gather your thoughts for TBR, like if I didn't have a booktube channel, there'd be no reason to annotate anything because the thoughts are for yourself. You're not going to discuss them with anybody. So what's the point? To me, the thought of annotating, like, oh my God, it makes my skin crawl. It gives me so much anxiety. I can't, no. Like, to me, like, the books are just so precious, and, like, the stuff that's in them. Like, if it were something that I really wanted to write my thoughts in it, which to me just seems silly anyways, like, I would buy a second copy and leave one pristine and have the other one that I would mark up. But I can't fathom marking up a book or what the point of it really is. I mean, I understand people like to refine quotes or whatever, and quotes would be the only thing, unless you're having, like, a 10-hour discussion on the books, or like you're doing a live show and like something like that, and so you need notes so you can bring up certain points or whatever. But usually, generally for a wrap up, you don't go that deep into it because then you get into spoilers anyways. But I can't. No, the thought of annotating just makes me sick to my stomach. Like, no, don't, no. I can't. I mean, I've seen some of those traveling books, and that's different because that book is specifically for people to share their thoughts. It'd be just like filming a video about a book and then having people comment. It's kind of like that same thought, only physically. That I could do. I just could not. I can't physically. I just can't. I can't. No. Dilemma 9. New or backlist? Which do you prefer, new releases or backlist books? I like a mixture of both. I have a lot of backlist. I have some new books on my shelf. It literally just depends. Like, I like both. I mean, I'm not as into the new releases unless it's something that really interests me, and usually I get my new releases from BookTube. Other people talking about them and stuff like that. Like The Huntress is a new release. I heard about that from April at Getting Hygge with It. I'm not big on pre-ordering unless it's an auto by author, like Jay Kristoff. I'll pre-order anything that man writes. Certain things like that where it's, yeah, definitely I will pre-order your book and buy new, absolutely. But Backlist, I have a lot of Backlists, and some of those are more fun, and you can find some real gems just by reading Backlist. And also I think it adds variety to the channel. Like if you're constantly reading every single new release like every other booktuber is, or a lot of the other booktubers are, it gets redundant and boring. So I like to make it a mix. You know, and even reading a book that came out last year that people have kind of forgotten about, sometimes that's fun too. So I like to do a mixture of both. And Dilemma 10, sequels. Do you read books as they are released or wait for an entire series to be published before reading one book? That depends on the series. I used to be a huge series reader, and now I feel like I struggle with long series. Like I'll start it and then I kind of get bored and like almost never come back to it. I guess the exception to that rule has been the Illuminae Files and the Book of the Ancestor, but those are trilogies, so those are easier. Like when they have one coming out a year, those are easy. Harry Potter, that was in a row, waiting in line at midnight to buy that next book in order to read it, starting with the Goblet of Fire. But I mean, it's just, I mean, it just depends. Like I don't think I'd want to wait, because there's certain series like Jenna Moreci, The Savior's Champion, that's going to be, I think she said, like a 6 or 7 book series. I ain't waiting to read the rest of them before they all come out. Fuck that. The second she released The Savior's Sister, I'm buying that book. I'll pre-order that fucking book. Like, there's, you know, stuff like that. Like, there's just no way I'm going to wait. Like, I want it now. So, I guess with series that I'm really invested in, which there aren't that many, it's read it when it comes out because I can't wait any longer. Okay, guys, that's it. That is the Dilemmas of a Book Nerd tag. They said that you could tag people. I'm not going to really tag anybody. If you see it and you want to do it, please do it. I think it's kind of fun, a little bit on your reading taste. You obviously found out some of my weird, like, neuroses. Hope you stick around, even though I'm kind of a, you know, very neurotic reader. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'm glad I got to make a video this week. I was a little nervous I wouldn't be able to, so I'm glad I was able to do that to kind of keep my schedule on track. Please let me know in the comments down below if you do any of the weird kind of things I do, what your reading habits are, and I will see you guys in the next one. Please like and subscribe, all the good stuff.